A Claiborne County court this morning heard a motion to dismiss a lawsuit against some of the largest opioid manufacturers in the country. 6 district attorneys general in Tennessee filed the lawsuit, claiming the pharmaceutical companies are to blame for the opioid epidemic. A judge will soon rule on whether the lawsuit can go forward. 10 News reporter Mark Salinger was in court today for that hearing. Mark?
Yeah, Robin and Brandon, the circuit court judge says he will issue an order tomorrow on whether the lawsuit will be dismissed. This case has big implications as to who will be held responsible for the opioid epidemic.
The manufacturer defendants have collectively brought a motion to dismiss the third amended complaint in this matter.
For 2 hours Thursday morning, attorneys argued about who is responsible for the thousands of deaths at the hands of opioids.
The manufacturer defendants make a legal product that is legally sold and legally distributed into the stream of commerce.
We're saying that they knowingly participated in the illegal drug market.
Lawyers representing 6 district attorneys general who brought about the lawsuits against drug manufacturers like Purdue Pharma argue the companies knowingly pushed addictive medication to the public.
These defendants have been profiting substantially from the illegal drug market.
The defendants say there is no legal ground to bring about the lawsuit and the case should be dismissed.
The district attorney generals lack standing because they have neither personally suffered an injury nor shown that the act authorizes to bring this action in their own names.
Many of the attorneys general who filed the lawsuit watched closely from the courtroom. For them, the suit is a chance to hold someone accountable for the hundreds of deaths in their districts over the years from suspected opioid overdoses.
It is our goal to hold the opioid manufacturers responsible for the damage that they've caused in our communities. We strongly believe that their marketing techniques have led to the opioid epidemic that has affected literally thousands of our citizens.
And if the judge rules the suit can move forward, the district attorneys generals want the case to go to a jury trial. If any money is awarded, it will be given to the state of Tennessee to be distributed.